Did you know there's one mineral essential to longevity? It's magnesium. And not just any magnesium. The most effective form is stabilized magnesium ions. Introducing REMAG by Dr. Carolyn Dean. Experience the benefits of stabilized ionic magnesium and support your health today. Visit RNAreset.com and use offer code MIRACLE10 for 10% off your first order. Visit RNAreset.com and use offer code MIRACLE10 for 10% off your first order.
Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Curtis Sliwa is your upcoming host. And Curtis, I'm sure you saw at this point that Taylor Swift, the pop megastar, has endorsed Kamala Harris. And she said that part of her reasoning was that she was very excited and heartened by seeing Tim Walz with his cat, that he's got a cat. She's a big cat fan. Taylor Swift loves her cat. She's all about cats. There's another person, a politician that I know, who's also very into cats. And as a matter of fact, he's here in this studio with me right now. So, Curtis, do you think maybe, just maybe, Taylor Swift could endorse you for mayor?
Swifties for Sliwa.
Swifties for Sliwa.
It almost has a flow, right?
It absolutely does. It's alliterative.
There's no damn way that Taylor Swift is endorsing Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah, probably not.
The only person who's had more cats than me is the man who wrote Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, Mark Twain.
Mark Twain, one of your favorites.
And also Hemingway. Hemingway, whose house in the Key West, Florida, is now dedicated to cats.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm number 3 in that chain. Now, macho maniacal guy, who's more macho than Hemingway?
You're just comparing yourself because of cats to Ernest Hemingway and Mark Twain, two of the great American literary masters of our time.
I never said that I was a master of the written word. As you know, I'm a master of the spoken word.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, the spoken word.
My malaprops, spoonerisms, fractured phrases,
no question about it. No question about it.
But no, there's no way Taylor Swift is ever going to endorse me for the mayoral campaign. No,
I mean, I don't know. You should really never say never.
Well, we'll have to get Noam Laden, our news director, who walks around with his shirt, Swifties for Harris.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what's next? Let's get beyond this feline discussion here.
We had the endorsement from Taylor Swift. Certainly not a ringing endorsement for former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo yesterday on Capitol Hill. He was, as you said in the newsroom earlier, eviscerated, and even Democrats were criticizing him at times. So what's your reaction to that blasting that Cuomo took yesterday on Capitol Hill?
Well, I'm doing a whole section on that, and obviously the headlines, and rightfully so, were to Stefanik, Malliotakis, and Lawler, our local congressmen and women, basically removing his 3-piece set. He went and became a eunuch yesterday on the Hill. There's no doubt about it.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
But as you pointed out, the bigger story is that normally in these kind of hearings, Democrats side with Democrats, Republicans with Republicans. So you would have thought the Democrats would have been defending Cuomo. No, they were accusing him of a cover-up. Also asking that he turn around and apologize to the families that were there. He wouldn't. They did, not only for him, but for all of government.
Yeah.
Because the federal government dropped the ball, too. They didn't say, oh, no, federal government was perfect.
No, and you made the comparison to when the Facebook guy was up there and they had a hearing about children being exploited through social media. He had that sort of dramatic moment where he stood up from the table. He turned to the families in the gallery and said, I'm really sorry that more wasn't done. Cuomo didn't have that moment.
Well, look, Zuckerberg was looking at his bottom line. He didn't want to see that Meta stock drop like a rock. But this guy, Cuomo, he's impervious. He's like the Kennedys. You know, he came out of that whole era. He married a Kennedy. He thinks that he is impervious to any kind of criticism. And yesterday's performance will haunt him. Stefanik's word are probably ringing in his ears. You will never again be able to win for elective office.
Well, and we may see that put to the test, but one of the more interesting moments also, I thought, was kind of his way of trying to tie his policy concerning nursing homes and putting COVID-infected patients back into nursing homes. He said, this is all a matter of New York law. and he kind of suggested that New York Attorney General Tish James
defended him, right? Constantly.
Right.
What he doesn't point out is that Tish James issued a report that said he had done the undercount. So he got destroyed by estrogen yesterday. He can't handle it. He can't handle estrogen.
Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene was pretty rough on him, too.
Oh, yeah, but she said what I said. You should be locked up for murder, right? You would expect her to say what I would say. But the women, especially Stefanik and Malliotakis, they basically sliced his three-piece set off and forced him to devour it.
That's very colorful language.
Okay,
I
right.
probably wouldn't put it that way.
I think on this being 9/11, we should move on. Okay,
okay, that's fine. All right, so going downtown, however, and sticking there near the Ground Zero Memorial, you were telling me before we got on the air that you feel as though it's very obvious, and I guess there's a New York Post report out now that's suggesting that there could well be some red Chinese influence at one police plaza. That's per reports. That's something that you kind of want to talk about here. So what's going on with this alleged red Chinese influence at police headquarters?
Well, they're everywhere because they're influencers with money. And whether you're Republicans or Democrats, all you got to do is shake the money in front of them, and they all of a sudden get excited. It's an orgasmatic excitement that politicians have. They'll take red Chinese money, and they have for years. But in this case, we saw Linda Sun and her husband busted, right? The infamous Linda Sun.
Linda Sun connected to
Congresswoman Meng. Cuomo, his Asian liaison, who was fundraising for him, taking all that red Chinese money in. And then Holcomb gets elected, and she becomes her deputy chief of staff, number 2 in the governor's mansion and executive wing. Driving a $385,000 brand new Ferrari around in Albany. You think that detected any attention? No, because she was raising them red Chinese money. Now, let's look at the city. Eric Adams' favorite fundraiser is Winnie Greco. Acknowledged, directly involved with the red Chinese government. She's been an agent, registered.
Right, I was going to say, she's an registered
agent.
Yeah,
she's open about it. I support Red China. She raised money for Eric Adams when he ran against me. Red Chinese money, openly, brazenly, boldly. Remember, the FBI raided her 2 homes in the Bronx and her place of business at the World Mall in Flushing, took all her records. And who hired her back to City Hall? Eric Adams. And what did he do? He sent her over to One Police Plaza. And she sat down with Eddie Caban. And basically she'd say, hey, Eddie, guess what? Guess who your new assistant director of the police commissioner liaison unit is? It's a guy named Lin, who is also an agent of the communist red Chinese country. Do you believe this? We got red Chinese.
A registered agent.
In the governor's office, in the police department, in the commissioner's office, and in City Hall. They control it because they give money, endless amounts of money. And that's why, what's the difference between politicians and prostitutes? You know what the difference is? The prostitutes admit they do it for the money. The politicians claim they're doing it as selfless servants.
Right.
Yeah, to serve self.
Yeah.
So here it is. You had Congresswoman Meng taking red Chinese money. Andrew Cuomo as governor taking red Chinese money. Holcomb taking red Chinese money through Linda Sun, right? That's a slam dunk, who just got arrested. And then you have Winnie Greco, a registered agent of Red China, raising money for Eric Adams. FBI raids her facilities. He hires her back, continues to raise money for him, red Chinese money, and then sends her over to One Police Plaza, go into the commissioner's office where she has an easy pass now with Eddie Caban. And she tells Eddie, come on, you're going to hire this guy Lynn as your assistant director of the police commissioner liaison unit, a registered member of the Communist Party, right? It's like, and he goes, oh, does the boss want this? Yeah. Okay, whatever the boss wants, the boss gets.
So, I mean, with all this stuff happening kind of around the same time, right? Separated by weeks, at least, with Linda Sun, and then you had the FBI raids last week and stuff like that. Is there an indication that there is a connection between the Red China influence and also the Caban investigation with nightclubs or whatever. I mean, is that all kind of caught up in the same web or not necessarily?
You ever eaten upesh fish? You like fish?
Yeah.
Yeah, you go hillbilly hand fishing, right? With J.D. Vance.
Right,
okay.
yeah.
The fish is rotten from the head down because it all started with the orders of the capo di tutti of the Adams crime family, not the Adams family, the Adams crime family, the boss of all bosses, Eric Adams.
Show me the money. Show me the money. That's what it's all about.
And that's what the Red Chinese very generously give to our prostitutes, a.k.a. politicians, on a regular basis. And they all have the beak in the trough. Because it's all about not selfless service, serving oneself.
So like you've reported on, the New York Post has reported on it, there's that open air flesh market in
Jackson Heights, Corona, right?
But you're saying that we should actually be looking a little closer to home, right downtown at City Hall.
Prostitution starts in the governor's offices in Albany, Congressman Meng's office, Andrew Evil Eye Cuomo's former office, City Hall, and One Police Plaza, because it's infested with Red Chinese agents. And the reason they can survive, they keep giving the money. What is the politician's mother's milk? Money. Cash money rules the world. Who said that, right?
Yeah, cash rules everything around me.
Right.
Cream, get the money.
Right.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Wu-Tang Clan.
There you go.
And now on that note, get the hell out of here because I hate Wu-Tang Clan.
It's the Rip and Read.
Talking about
Featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Talk Radio 77 WABC. 77 WABC and Tunnel to Towers Foundation present 9/11. 23 years later. Now, here's Curtis Sliwa.
You know, every time I think of the attack on 9/11 and the aftermath, all those who continue to die, and now we've run out of money in the 9/11 fund, yet we give billions and billions of dollars to the illegal aliens. They come in, they get everything. Those first responders, those brave men and women who went into the pit, which became a open crematorium, the largest in the world for over a year, the burning fires. I'll never forget having been down there, the smell of death in the air. And then there was one person who arose, Christine Todd Whitlis, who had been the failed governor of New Jersey, and the Peter principle always kicks in politics. You fail at one job, so they kick you upstairs to do another job. That's what Bush 43 did, and made her the EPA chiefess. And she swore that the EPA had gone down to the pit in the surrounding area and had done extensive tests of the air quality. And she gave a thumbs up. She said, don't worry about it. You don't need no mask. You don't need no Playtex gloves. You don't need hazmat suits. You don't need respirators. Just go back in there. The air is safe to inhale and exhale. This is what she said on a number of occasions. For some people, it's difficult for them to remember it other than to know that the diva of all divas of disco, Donna Summers, actually lived in the area. There were many, many people who lived down near the World Trade Center, went to Battery Park, were all kinds of apartments filled with occupants then. And they, too, believed that. They accepted the government. That's why I said never trust the government. I don't care who's in charge, Republicans or Democrats. They lie to you. It should be verified first, and then I'll trust you. I don't care what party you're with. But they lie to you. And they say they convince themselves they know not what. We know, but they can't handle the truth. And the truth was that the air was toxic. Somebody like Donna Summers, who was not a first responder, was not in the area to work and excavate and help. She lived there. Her friends and relatives said, move out of there, Donna Summers, move out of there. She goes, no, I'm going to be here. And then soon after, she was diagnosed with mesothelioma, which immediately led the asbestos poisoning to lung cancer, which is a quick death sentence, as many people know, not just those who are victims of the aftermath of 9/11, but those in life who've been exposed to asbestos, those little microscopic fabrics that somehow get into your lung system, and then very soon it consumes your lungs and your room temperature. That's what happened to Donna Summers. She lived right in the area. And remember, with Donna Summers, according to everybody who knew her since birth, she had never smoked a cigarette, cigar, Tiparillo, a blunt, a joint, nothing. People got sick, and they continue to get sick. Obviously, today we honor those first responders. We honor those men and women who perished right in the, no other way of describing it, the belly of the beast. The attack of 9/11 that caught us all asleep, like the attack of 1993 that preceded that. I mean, Ramzi Youssef, the mastermind of 1993, and he was the cousin of Khalid, the Sheikh Mohammed, now housed in Gitmo, who had sold the idea of crashing planes into buildings to Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. Yep, asleep at the wheel. The Bush administration that had just been elected, and, of course, the Clinton administration. Was plenty of blame to go around. National security agencies, who I'm always distrustful of and blaming, were collecting information in their separate agencies, and they did nothing with it. They had tapes and tapes of conversations of Al-Qaeda operatives. If they had had interpreters interpreting and then sharing with all the agencies, that attack would never have happened. But let's look at Christine Todd Whitlis. She's now part of an effort that says, I want my party back, the Republican Party. She hates Trump. She loves Harris. Where was she from? Far Hills, New Jersey, that exclusive area, and then on a farm out there in Oldwick, a real patrician. You would think she would never show her face in public again. She would never be mentioned in private. But you see, they have no shame, these elected officials and appointed officials. No shame. They anticipate that we will forgive and forget, and a vast majority of us will. I'm old school. I don't forgive, I don't forget. That name is seared in my memory every time I hear of another person who suffers a painful, long death, thyroid conditions, all kinds of breathing disorders, cancers. Oh, my God, every other day. And to have to hear our regular contributor, Congressman Peter King, who was in the forefront of getting that 9/11 fund restored and nourished, and then to be told they're running out of money, we're giving all this freaking money to illegal aliens who are invading our country. How the hell do you explain that? But, of course, they all line up this morning as they did. All of them who cherish the illegal alien, who push them, oh, we'll give them everything. And how quickly they forget. But they show up on 9/11. Oh, yeah, of course, it's mandatory, right? Think about that, ladies and gentlemen, today. People will continue to die. People will continue to not just die in their sleep, but die torturous deaths because of the toxins in the air. And you probably see Christine Todd Whitlis out there somewhere in central Jersey. And, you know, she makes the rounds, the patrician that she is, and all the country clubs. Why don't you go up to her and say, you are a disgraziata. You're a shanda of the worst type. How do you even show up in public? When you signed a death warrant that continues to haunt family after family, person after person, and not only those that were first responders, but those who lived in the area and worked in the area. And those who were on the pile in Fresh Kills where all the debris was brought, and on their hands and knees with little rakes were going through the debris to even find DNA. They too have been forgotten and have perished from Oh, God, a series of diseases. I will never forgive and I will never forget you, Christine Todd Whitless. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation and WABC, remembering 9/11. We will never forget. Join the Tunnel to Towers Foundation on its mission to do good in honor of Americans' heroes. Donate $11 a month at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org.
Check this out. It's the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Talk Radio 77 WABC. 77 WABC and Tunnel to Towers Foundation present 9/11. 23 years later. Now, here's Greg Kelly.
Well, it's not Greg Kelly. It's yours truly, Curtis Sliwa. I know for some of you, you'd love that Greg Kelly be on now, but you're not walking on this. No way. Sorry. Probably agents of Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo around here don't want me to tell the truth, because every time he has appeared, he has lied, and they've let him get away with it. They've let him get away with it here at WABC. And his gatekeeper, Melissa DeRosa, who have blood on their hands for the 15,000 seniors that they are responsible for their deaths, as Marjorie Taylor Greene called him a murderer. I don't think that's extreme language at all. And yesterday he went up to the Hill, and even his fellow Democrats turned on him and accused Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo of covering up the deaths of the senior citizens that he sent to an early death as a result of his executive order signed in March 25th of 2020.
Whatever I said, I knew was accurate. They asked for out-of-facility deaths. They asked for presumed deaths. I said, when we have accurate numbers, I will release them. But I'm not going to release numbers that I don't believe and we have reason to believe were false.
Did you direct your staff to make the number of nursing home-related fatalities lower?
No, we said these are the numbers without the out-of-facility death numbers.
What a liar. That voice was not a voice that you know. It wasn't Mike Lawler, who called him a sack of bovine organized correctly. It wasn't Stefanik. It wasn't Malliotakis, the Republicans in our area. No, it was the Democratic co-chairman of this committee from California. Could I hear that again, please? Now, remember, this is a Democrat who is accusing him, as other Democrats on that committee did, of staging a cover-up of the true number of the senior citizens that died as a result of his executive order, forcing them to go to long-term nursing homes after having been in the hospital and having COVID.
Whatever I said, I knew was accurate. They asked for out-of-facility deaths. They asked for presumed deaths. I said, when we have accurate numbers, I will release them. But I'm not going to release numbers that I don't believe and we have reason to believe were false.
Did you direct your staff to make the number of nursing home-related fatalities lower?
No, we said these are the numbers without the out-of-facility death numbers.
And he said that knowing that his staff, in doing depositions and having given previous testimony, all hardcore Democrats, all of them Cuomoites and Cuomosexuals, they said, no, he directed us. He and his aide-de-camp, Melissa DeRosa, took our figures, which were true, went into a back room with whiteout and lowered the figures and told us to lie. We refused to lie because when you lie, people die. And then the ringer came in, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, and you should have seen the look on Cuomo's face, knowing that this is the Congresswoman who took out the chancellor at the University of Pennsylvania. chancellor of MIT, and the chancellor of Harvard over their definition of anti-Semitism.
When were you negotiating for your multi-million-dollar advance deal for your book as seniors were dying in nursing homes? That is the question.
You can't make up facts, Congresswoman.
You're the one making up facts. You're the one who undercounted nursing home deaths. You're the one who I want to ask right now. You apologize today, but there are families sitting here. I want you to turn around, look them in the eye, and apologize, which you have failed to do. Will you do it?
This is not about political theater.
No, this is about accountability.
Why did 1.2 million Americans die?
And then he got angry, and he reverted to what Cuomo has always believed.
First of all, I'm not fuzzy. I don't want to be fuzzy. I don't even know what fuzzy means. I'm from New York. We don't have fuzzy in New York.
Well, Stefanik is from New York. And she asked him to turn and apologize to the families there. It is interesting that the congressmen and congresswomen of that committee, both Democrats and Republicans, ended up apologizing to the families for the failures of government, which included the federal government and his own state government, but he wouldn't apologize. He wouldn't even look at the families. He wouldn't look at one family member. And then Stefanik just dealt the knockout blow.
No. You're the former governor who's disgraced under oath.
Lie to the
this
people
executive
of the
order was
United
under
States.
your name. It was counter to CDC
Why
and
did you
CMS.
Let President Trump lie.
This is about those seniors, Governor. They deserve to hear from you in the eye that you apologize, that you were negotiating for a multi-million-dollar book deal. It is a disgrace. There is a reason why you were the former governor of New York State, and you will never hold elected office again. I yield back.
You will never hold elective office again, Stefanik swore. But she doesn't know Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo as well as I do. It's an organized crime family and has been that way many, many years. At the head of this Cuomo crime family is Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo. And then there is his dumb, dullard brother, Fredo, Chris Cuomo, with a muscle between both ears, and just released from federal prison, his leg breaker, his assassin, Joe Percoco, did 6 years of federal time for political corruption, on whose behalf, of course, his own, but also the Cuomo crime family. So they've hit the mattresses, they're stirring the marinara sauce, they're out there in the Hamptons, and they plot their comeback each and every day. I'll give you an example. I was at the Labor Day parade this past Saturday. I know it's not Labor Day. They don't do it on Labor Day any longer. And they went up Fifth Avenue, all the unions, with their union leaders, not many spectators, but I'm there every year with the Guardian Angels to support working class men and women. And I spoke to some of the union leaders smoking their Cohiba cigars. You know, they look like thugs themselves. And I said, is it true that Andrew's been telling you he wants to run for mayor? He said, hey, certainly. You know, we owe it to Andrew all those years. We got those great contracts from the MTA, money-taking agency, the state agency, in which we got to negotiate the contract first, right? First, with the contractors, and then we went to the MTA, and Cuomo just signed off on it. We love Cuomo. We want him for mayor. Sure, they want to be able to put their beaks in the trough. So know that this political vulture is flying around what he thinks will end up becoming the political carcass of Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, as the walls are closing in on him. But as he was thinking, I've survived this Kill Bill moment of Uma Thurman in the place of Stefanik, somehow I've maintained my composure because he wanted to go ballistic. The sexist that he is, the misogynist. Coming out of the bullpen, back-to-back, belly-to-belly, following Stefanik, the ringer, the hit woman, was our own Nicole Malliotakis. from Staten Island, and she would not allow him to escape.
You assert your March 25th directive never mandated nursing homes to admit COVID-positive patients. This is false. Your directive very clearly says no resident shall be denied, and it prohibited COVID testing before admission.
So Cuomo was able to get friendly journals to publish his response to this committee hearing in advance, in which he was able to spin everything, and Nicole Malliotakis just tore him apart.
CDC and CMS would never recommend prohibiting testing, yet your directive did, all while you were sending tests to the Hamptons for your family.
Tests to the Hamptons for his family, and naturally for his brother, Fredo, Chris Cuomo. That dullard. That jerk. There's no other way of describing him and the Cuomos. It's an organized crime family. Notice he made a tactical move early on to marry a Kennedy, because he hoped to have the cover that the Kennedys were provided all during the bogus years of the Camelot years, when the Kennedy family was a rogue family and they were protected. And it was a romanticized image created about JFK and RFK and Ted Kennedy and the patriarch Joe Kennedy. And they were the worst of the worst. Personally, they were degenerates. There's no other way of describing them, but you would never know that from the way the media protected them. And that's what Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo was hoping through his marriage into the Kennedy clan, and to the fact that he was born on third base with the name Cuomo and never had to work a day in his life. He had legacy because he was the son of Mario Faccia Brutta Cuomo. But I will never forget another time of the many times that he was un disgraziato. Remember, in the aftermath of 9/11, and a lot of people don't know this story, but I remember meeting up with Governor Pataki and his staff, and then Mayor Rudy Giuliani and his staff in Grand Central. And it was, we were going up to Shea Stadium. It was World Series 2000, a year before 9/11. And we were taking the number 7 train there. Now, you would have thought that Pataki would have embraced Giuliani. No. They wouldn't even get near one another. Their staff members wouldn't get near one another. They hated one another. They hated one another the way Rockefeller hated John Lindsay, the way Cuomo hated de Blasio during COVID. But as soon as 9/11 occurred, George Pataki said, let's put everything aside. Rudy likewise. And they worked together in tandem. We didn't have a president for days. We didn't have a vice president. Nobody knew where Bush 43 was, or Dick Cheney. Had no idea. The people we depended on was Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and the man who has never received his due, Governor Pataki. So what did Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo call George Pataki? A glorified coat holder. Coat holder, really? I wonder what Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo is doing tonight, licking his wounds from getting gored in that congressional hearing, and rightfully so, in the Hamptons. George Pataki is hosting the September 11th memorial commemoration that the Pataki Center runs. And he's doing it on an everyday, every month, every year basis. Because he was there when we needed somebody strong. Rudy and George Pataki, I will never forget that. And what was Andrew Cuomo doing? Casting aspersions against George Pataki, saying he was just a glorified coat holder. What did you ever do? In the aftermath of 9/11, Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, what did you ever do? You know what you did? You did ugats. You did bupkis, because the only thing you ever did anything for was your damn self.
Exactly 1 month after the New York Attorney General exposed that you underreported the nursing home deaths by 50%, your chief told Democrat lawmakers in New York that she admitted that the true toll was withheld to avoid attracting prosecutors. That, Governor Cuomo, is a cover-up.
That's right, a cover-up.
It's the Rip and Read.
Talking about
Featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC. 77 WABC and Tunnel to Towers Foundation present 9/11. 23 years later.
A day of remembrance requires action. Donate $11 a month at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
Talk Radio 77 WABC. 77 WABC and Tunnel to Towers Foundation present 9/11. 23 years later. Now, here's Curtis Sliwa.
Oh, David Bowie singing China Girl. There is a red Chinese agent, and she is open about it, not hidden like Linda Sun was for 15 years with her husband, who had infiltrated the offices as the chief of staff of Congresswoman Meng. Red Chinese agent right in there. Then Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo as governor. Linda Sun was his Asian liaison, raising a lot of red Chinese loot for him. And then she got a promotion from Governor Holcomb. She became deputy chief of staff and was raising massive amounts of red Chinese money for the grifter of all grifters, Kathy Holcomb, and her husband. Well, she's been busted along with her husband. And then you have apologists emerging like John Liu, state senator in Queens, who should be investigated because he's probably on the red Chinese payroll also. But let's look at what's happening at City Hall. Linda Sun did not announce that she was an agent of the red Chinese government. She operated under the radar screen, and as long as she raised money for Congresswoman Meng, for Governor Cuomo at that time, and Governor Holcomb, nobody cared. Nobody cared. Just keep bringing in the loot. But Winnie Greco, who was the Asian liaison going way back to when Eric Adams was Brooklyn Borough president and then mayor, operated openly, boldly, and brazenly as a registered agent of Red China, who went back and forth to Red China with Eric Adams so often he couldn't remember how many times. And they brought back the red Chinese loot because they can be extraordinarily generous. They give you the big, thick red envelopes, fat with American currency. So the FBI, sensing that she was not only an agent, but somebody embedded in city government for the red Chinese, raided her 2 homes in the Bronx and her business office at the World Mall in Flushing, took everything out. You would have thought that Eric Adams would have dismissed her, put her on the shelf. But oh no, he brought her back. She's working openly, brazenly, and boldly in City Hall as a representative of Red China, raising red Chinese money for Eric Adams' defense fund and for his reelection campaign. And apparently she has an easy pass in and out of police headquarters into the 14th floor of Eddie Caban. It now turns out that she was able to get appointed as the number 1 aide to camp to Eddie Caban, a guy named Lynn, who's been described as Eddie Caban's right-hand man. Now, you say, who is Lynn? He was appointed assistant director of the police commissioner liaison unit. No police experience. Basically, Winnie Greco said to Eric Adams, who she is a meta-chief for, I want this guy in police headquarters. And Eric Adams said, certainly. And then she walked into the office of Eddie Caban, the 14th floor. She has an easy pass there. And she said, hey, you got to take Lynn on as your assistant director of the police commissioner liaison unit. And he said, is this what the boss wants? Said, certainly. And now what we see happening as the leadership at One Police Plaza is in chaos, they're doing walk-in talks. They are so paranoid about what's happening next, that they're immediately every day they're scanning for all kinds of bugs. They're feeling one another up. Yeah, Justin, even pulling their three-piece set to make sure they're not wearing a wire. Imagine doing it to one another in the parking lots, like organized criminals. Let me advise everyone at Home Police Plaza, cooperate with the FBI on this. This is bad stuff. Because what's going to happen is they're going to be forced to bring in a police commissioner from outside of the department, and we know that's always disastrous. Stop acting like a bunch of organized crime members of La Cosa Nostra, having walk-in talks, secret meetings in parks, and feeling each other up to make sure they're not wired up like a Christmas tree. But remember, this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, and WABC remembers 9/11. On 9/11, we vowed to never forget. Help America keep that promise. Donate $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. And special significance this year, the Tunnel to Tower Foundation is raising money for our forgotten veterans, not just here, but all across America, who are homeless, whether they served in peace or served in war, many of them who have emotional and mental issues along with physical issues. Tunnel to Tower will not forsake our veterans. Don't trust our government to help them. They almost never do. Help them through Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Roger Stone here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history. That's actual physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or you're retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/stone right now for your free Roger Stone Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit, or call 800-747-6589. That's 800-747-6589. Call now to receive your free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.